Well, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has just touched down in Tokyo for the high-level Quad meeting. Just hours after becoming Australia's 31st Prime Minister, his plane landed literally about 15 minutes ago. He has travelled to Tokyo with the new Foreign Minister as well, Penny Wong. You can see her just coming down the stairs behind the Prime Minister. He's wasted no time jumping into the role. He'll be meeting with the US President Joe Biden, along with Japan's Fumio Kishida and India's Narendra Modi tomorrow. Now, as was the case during the election campaign, China's growing dominance in the Asia-Pacific will also be high on the Quad's agenda. Of course, the grouping has really been talking far more frequently than they have in previous years as they are trying to manage China's dominance in the region. Anthony Albanese, as we can see there, for the very first time, meeting Japanese dignitaries and officials as the Prime Minister, the 31st Prime Minister of Australia, also there with his Foreign Affairs Minister. Yes, just getting into the car, and he will be heading off now. Well, at a press conference alongside the Japanese and Indian leaders, for the very first time, the US President Joe Biden gave the clearest indication of how the US would respond if China invades Taiwan.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made. We support the one China policy. We support all that we've done in the past. But that does not mean that China has the ability, the jurisdiction to go in and use force to take over Taiwan. So we stand firmly with Japan and with other nations not to let that happen. And my expectation is it will not happen. It will not be attempted.
Well, Joe Biden's comments have prompted an angry response from the Foreign Ministry in Beijing.
China expressed strong dissatisfaction and resolute opposition to the US remarks. Taiwan is an inalienable part of Chinese territory. The Taiwan issue is purely an internal affair of China and cannot be interfered with by any external forces. China has no room for compromise or concessions on issues involving China's core interests, such as sovereignty and territorial integrity. No one should underestimate the strong determination, firm will and strong ability of the Chinese people to defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity. We urge the US side to effectively adhere to the One China principle, and the provisions to the 3 US-China joint communiques abide by the important commitments to not supporting Taiwan independence and be cautious with its words and actions on the Taiwan issue.
Our North Asia correspondent James Oaten is on the tarmac in Tokyo, where the Prime Minister has just landed. James, you know, this is just hours after the Prime Minister was, officially started his role. Why has he prioritised this so early on in his tenure?
Well, it's such an important meeting for Australia, the Quad. These are some of Australia's most important partners. India, of course, a growing power. Japan, of course, one of our closest trading partners, and the United States, our closest ally. So with these countries together, there's a lot of big issues that need to be discussed. Ukraine has been a reminder of what can happen when, as you know, the international relations kind of often say, when one country tries to unilaterally change the status quo. So there's a lot of people who are looking at what's happening in Europe and say, well, what does this mean for the Indo-Pacific region, particularly when you've got an increasingly assertive China? So that's one area of concern that no doubt the Quad will be talking about tomorrow. There will be some discussions on Ukraine. Hard to get agreement amongst all of them, given India's got a long-standing history with Russia, but certainly China and how to respond to an assertive China will be a top issue to discuss at the Quad meeting.
James, it was interesting as we played that grab from the US President. You know, up until now, the US has been sort of ambiguous about what its response would be, but today he made it very clear, Joe Biden, how the US would respond if China invaded Taiwan.
Yeah, it was rather unambiguous, quite assertive in fact. When asked whether the United States would respond if China attacked and tried to invade Taiwan, the US president said yes, and that's been their policy. Now, in the past, we've seen some backtracking or clarification from the White House, and it looks like that's happened again in this instance. But certainly the comments have come for the first time since the invasion of Ukraine. So the US president was a lot more resolute than he has been in the past. Ukraine is very much front and centre of the mind of the United States. The question from the reporter referenced the fact that the US refused to send troops to Ukraine to defend it from the Russian invasion. So certainly the US president wanted to put a stronger response to this question than he may have in the past. Taiwan has certainly enjoyed his comments, Beijing not at all.
Indeed. You know, James, you talk about how critical the Quad grouping is to Australia. What do you think they will be looking for from Australia?
Well, we know Australia is going to take a stronger position on climate change, and that will be broadly welcomed in the region. That may be an issue that, for instance, pairs well nicely with US President Joe Biden, because it's been something that he's been discussing a lot on. But really, when it comes to the Quad, defence and security, ensuring this free and open Indo-Pacific are really the top priorities. We'll just have to wait to get some detail, because this is an organisation that's still finding its feet, which is why they're not talking about expanding it or anything. It's got to establish its gains and establish its goals as well. So expect to hear more on that front.
James Oaten at the airport in Turkey. Thanks so much for your time.